Hello and welcome to the No Huddle podcast. This is episode one of a podcast that I hope to continue for at least the next few years. My name is Ansh, and I am an undergraduate student at Northwestern. I actually head off in about a week, so if this background will probably stick around just for the first few episodes. But just for some context, I started watching football like over a decade ago. The first game I ever watched was Ravens 49ers. A particularly rough way to start your fandom, losing a Super Bowl. But ever since then, I've sort of just fell in love with the game. And I really just enjoy talking about it. And that's why I created this podcast. So I hope to cover a bit of NBA. I'm a big Warriors fan as well. I've been blessed to at least watch the Warriors. But uh, for the most part, my expertise and my knowledge lies with football. So I'm just going to mostly stick with that. And anyways, let's without further ado, let's get started with the first topic of the podcast, first topic of the first episode, and that's Arch Manning. So I'm not the biggest college football guy. I mostly just watch the NFL because that's what I grew up on. But when it comes to college, I always pay attention to one team, and that one team is Texas. I have one of my best friends is a huge Texas fan, ever since or for the longest time. So I always keep an eye on them, and especially because Texas always has something interesting going on. Like they have a lot of pro-ready players, and their quarterbacks are always interesting. Like they seem to get more discussion than anyone else. So heading into this offseason, I had been hearing about Arch Manning for 3 years. And to say that he was hyped is a little bit of an understatement. I've been hearing about him since he was a high school senior from my friend. So when Arch Manning's debut against Ohio State was up on deck, I made sure I watched. I got up nice and early in the morning. I sat down on my couch. I got settled for the game. And what do you know? He kind of sucked. It was a little bit of a shock, I think, for everyone, right? So Arch Manning goes out there, throws for right around 170 yards. And most of those yards came right at the end of the game. Like at halftime, he was 5 of 10 for 25 yards. And then when I'm watching Arch Manning, he just doesn't seem ready yet. Not he seems raw. And for someone who is a junior right now, he's redshirted his freshman year, and then he was the backup to Quinn his second year. It's weird to be this raw because when playing for Steve Sarkisian, he's like the sort of, I guess he's like the Kyle Shanahan of college, right? He's a really good play caller who has giant deficiencies in certain spots, especially the red zone. We'll get to that later. But when you're playing for someone who plays like Shanahan, and that's why I'm able to understand Texas a bit, you need to have a quarterback who can just hit the cues, right? So a lot of times you're gonna get players schemed open. You're gonna have quick passes. You're gonna have screens. Like Texas loves their screens and they love their RPOs. And when I'm watching Arch out there, he just misses them. It's something that I think is gonna infuriate the hell out of every Texas fan for a little bit until he gets that stuff corrected. But in an offense like Steve Sarkisian, you can't just miss the easy ones. Everything is designed so that you just get the ball out, you get in a certain spot, and you're good. That's all you have to do. And for him to be missing these small throws, like it's weird. He was missing a bubble screens. He was missing bubble screens, and to end the game, he missed a drag route that on 3rd and 3 that would have no doubt gone at least 10, 15 yards after the catch. There was so much room up for that guy, and he missed it. Which I don't know. For someone who was supposed to be like tank for Arch has been the Saints mantra ever since the beginning of the offseason. And for a guy who was supposed to have that much hype, it's just a bit odd. Some sort of smaller stuff as well. He really did struggle pre-snap. Whenever Ohio State came up with the blitz, and by the way, credit to Matt Patricia, called a great game for Ohio State. Especially, I'm not the biggest Patricia guy, but when Patricia was calling up blitzes and stuff, Arch Manning just didn't read it right. And this is a game that they've had 5 months to prep for, 6, and there's just blitzers running down the middle of the field. And for those of you who don't know, at least to my understanding, the quarterback handles all pre-snap protection for Texas. If I'm wrong, someone can let me know. But if you're a quarterback and you're reading the defense pre-snap, you have to determine blocking assignments, right? So your job as a quarterback is if you see the blitz coming, you have to make sure the interior guys get blocked first. So you want any extra pressure coming, or if there's extra man, you want them coming at the edge, right? Because then it just takes the longest amount of time. You can get your hot read out. Sometimes you can even sit it out, and you can just because that edge player is just going to take too much time, so the blitz won't even affect the play. But all of the blitzes that Ohio State was calling, none of the rushers were coming on the edge. They were coming right down the middle. So I don't know if that's a failure on the interior offensive line, on the head coach, or the quarterback, because someone clearly didn't do their job heading into that game. And when you have blitzers just screaming down the middle, it kills a play. There's nothing you can do. On a couple third downs, you'd see Arch takes a snap, he looks, and it's just there's instantly a defender in his face. And for the most part, that is the quarterback's fault. So him sort of seeing pre-snap is something that, that should be ironed out, especially in an offense where the head coach is supposed to be that good. I don't know. That part was really odd, especially when like the first series of the game it happens, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. He's been sitting in the system for 3 years. He's been waiting and waiting, and you think he'd be able to know pre-snap protection by now. And then a lot of his balls were just really inaccurate. I saw a stat the other day, or not the other day. I saw it today. He was 1 of 5 on intermediate throws, and if you go back and watch those throws, he just shanked them. It was kind of unbelievable, especially the interception he had. He just waited, and he waited for his guy for a couple seconds, and then he was open maybe for half a second. It would have been an unbelievable throw to get the ball there, but as he throws it, it's just, oh, I don't know what he's doing. There's 2 defenders right there, and those 2 defenders have a better shot at the ball than his receiver, and I think this is something that's going to affect Texas for at least this season, because he is just clearly he needs time and he needs reps, and of course, for a team like Texas, who was the number 1 team heading into this season, they have unbelievable talent on the defensive side of the ball. As we saw that they held Ohio State to 14 points. It's a team that needs a quarterback who's ready now. So, of course, they're not going to bench Arch, but it's going to suck for them for a bit. And I think Arch alone kind of makes it so that Texas isn't in that upper echelon of contender, right? They're not on the level of Ohio State right now. Even though they were a few plays away from winning that game, I just think they're not ready. Arch isn't ready. He needs time. So I definitely saw a bit of the yips too, especially in the early series where he was just like everything seemed off. He had a bit of the yips. That'll get better, of course. But I think for now we can kind of cross Texas off. I'm not saying that of course Arch Manning can learn over the year and then, or maybe there was just a 1-game thing. He had just a really, really bad case of the yips. He'll be back and then I'm wrong all of a sudden. But from what I've seen from Arch, it's a quarterback who needs 1 more year, right? So we're talking about Arch in like the 2026 NFL draft. And I think at least, again, this is a 1-game overreaction. I think it'd be in his best interest to stay another year. And I think it's in Texas' best interest too, because I think he just needs some reps and he'll get them over the next 2 years. And after that, he can start to become, like the savior that was promised. So again, I could be totally wrong. Could just be an overreaction, but we'll be able to tell in a month when they play Florida and Oklahoma back to back, especially Oklahoma, because even though Texas on paper is a much better team, that game is huge. It's a big rivalry. There's gonna be 100,000 people there. So we'll see again if the yips come back. And if he's been able to develop enough to start diagnosing real defenses again.